Hello, everybody. It's Daniel speaking, and this is our next Emotional English podcast where we learn in English language effortlessly, emotionally, fulfilled with energy, and of course, positively. So another day, another episode of our Emotional English podcast. Thank you for your feedbacks. Thank you for your subscriptions. It's a very nice time, right? We're living in. So we go through a very interesting life right now. We're growing, we're practicing, we're moving forward. And we're facing some troubles, of course. And nowadays in Russia, there are many things going. And the worst scenario, which happened not so long time ago, had happened. It's just mobilization, right? So people are very scared of mobilization. And I want to discuss this topic with you guys today. It's going to be not a long episode for today, but it's going to be just my thoughts on this topic and on this problem in general. So what is mobilization and what the difference between partial mobilization or a full mobilization, right? So it can be a general mobilization, right? What the difference is, and my own thoughts on it, right? I'm using today the website. Actually, it's not the big website, right? But it's quite interesting to read some news, what people say about mobilization around the world. And today I use the website. It's called science.howstuffworks.com. And the topic called what does Russia's partial military mobilization mean, right? So the lady who wrote this article, her name is Sarah Glame. And she published this article in September 23rd. So the first, what I see here on the website is Vladimir Putin's photo, right? He's sitting next to his table, right? His desk, and proclaiming about the situation, right? He proclaimed that so the partial military mobilization is here, okay? So, and we have a little note here. Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a televised address to the nation September 21st, in which he announced partial military mobilization in Russia. And then just a quote, Kremlin press office, a handout, and everything else. So that's the point. Vladimir Putin, our president of Russia, delivered a televised address to the nation. It means that he proclaimed that, all right, guys, we're having some issues with the last situation in Ukraine, and we need more troops, we need more army, we need more people there, okay? If you ask me, do I like this situation, war in Ukraine? And I say, of course, I don't like it, I dislike it. And I cannot choose between going to the army and kill people and saying that the war is good and just sitting down on my couch and announcing some news. Of course, I'm against the war in general. But in Russia, you cannot call the war as a war because we have the special word for it. The special expression is called the special operation in Ukraine. You cannot call it a war. It's like, remember the situation during the Corona time, right? Every country has their own rules how to call that process. And in Russia, we called it personal isolation. So there is no word in Russian which called personal isolation, right? You cannot just personally isolate yourself because there is only one person or rule can isolate yourself, and this rule is published or addressed from the government, all right? You cannot just self-isolate yourself, right? Self-isolation, they call it. But it's stupid. You cannot just isolate yourself. You cannot say to your legs, hey, legs, do not go anywhere. It's stupid. Isolation, it's the push, right? You cannot just push yourself in this direction. It's stupid. And the same thing with this war situation, right? Or this special operation. You cannot just call the situation as a special situation or special operation and be away from the word war. So the whole world around do not use this phrase as special operation. They say it's an official, ongoing war in Ukraine. And why I think so? Because we can read it right away in the article. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial mobilization during a national address Wednesday, September 21st, about the ongoing war in Ukraine. In it, he called up as many as 300,000 reservists and hinted that he might even use nuclear weapons to protect Russian territory. And to be honest, it is not the quote from our president, because he never said that. He never said that, he never hinted that he might even use nuclear weapons to protect Russian territory. He said a little bit differently. He said that, so we probably might use as more options as we can, but he didn't say the word about nuclear weapons. And if you're curious about the word nuclear, it's the highest weapon, right? The most dangerous weapon you can ever see, as in life, right? And it's just imagine Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These are two areas where the Americans use their nuclear weapons. So Putin did not say that, but he meant that, I guess, but he didn't say. Here is what this means for Russia and the war in Ukraine. So they ask many questions here. I don't want to read a lot of information here, but I'm curious what questions they're asking. First question they're asking is, what does partial mobilization mean? And second question is, how many reservists does Russia have? Next, how are Russian citizens responding? And the fourth, why is this mobilization so significant, right? Yeah. Okay, again, I'm not trying to read their own thoughts. I would like to answer it first with my own thoughts, and then we'll go further and I'll read something. So what does partial mobilization mean? So it's obviously said here that, so the word partial means a part of something, right? When something is partial, it means it's not general, right? It's only a part of a word mobilization. So we're not having a full mobilization, right? Because it's a partial mobilization. That's what it means. Not all the people are going to Ukraine. That's obviously here, right? Next question is, how many reservists or reservists? Let's check the word pronunciation. To be honest, I don't remember what is the word spelling. Reserve, right? From the word reservists, right? And if you're curious what I use to check the pronunciation, sometimes I use just the English vocabularies, right? I mean, not vocabularies, but dictionaries, right? And I use Google the most often. And reservist, right? From the word reserve. And the second question, how many reservists does Russia have? We have plenty, right? We have tons. Very good words. Plenty of, right? It means a lot. We have tons of things, right? Tons of reservists, tons of people, right? Many people we have. And it is true because most Russians, they passed the military preparation, right? We do have an opportunity in Russia to serve Russian army for 1 year. The man must, obligated by a law, right? According to a law, you must go to army for 1 year and be a warrior for a while. And then you're good. You're prepared. Actually, not much, but you are a little bit prepared to any mobilization process, right? How many? It's about, I guess it's about 30 millions, I guess. Yeah, 30 million people we have. How are Russian citizens responding? Of course, it's a good question. How do we respond? We're shitting bricks, man. You know this idiom, shitting bricks? When you're so scared, you take a shit. It means you create a lot of poop. And we are pooping a lot. And the look of our poop looks like a brick, okay? And brick are used to build houses or buildings, right? So we're shitting bricks. That's our respond. Because we have been living a normal life, okay? Not during the corona time, but anyway, we've been living normally for whole time, right? Let's say I'm 30 years old nowadays, right? In the 8th of September, I finally celebrated my birthday. I'm 30 years old now. And we've been living nicely. I've been living nicely for 30 years. And now I'm facing the war. Oh my God. I mean, the special operation officially in Russia. So am I scared? Of course I am, because I have no skills. I've never been to army. I do have an army ticket, but I have no chance to go to army right now. But who knows? We live in Russia, and there is no proof, right, that nobody that I am protected, right? They officially say it's a partial mobilization. In part, during the partial mobilization, the people like me, they're not going. But you know what? Officially, it is not mean. It means not actually. All right. It's not normally. Normally, it's different. The law always says something, but it's in real life it works differently. Okay, that's what we need to understand. And in this case of partial mobilization, I'm not going, but we do have reservists who will go. And the respond on this action is we're frightened, right? It is very frightening to see, right? When you say the word frightening with ing in the end, you're describing your feelings, right? Oh, sorry, the opposite. When you are describing the word frightening, you're describing the situation, right? Oh man, the situation is frightening, right? It's a frightening respond we have, right? So frightening, you're describing the process. But when you discuss or describe your feelings, you say, man, I'm frightened, right? I'm exhausted, right? ED represents that you are feeling something and you're scared, frightened, interested, right? Excited, or things or situation could be exciting moments, interesting book, right? That's a thing. And here the respond is frightening. We have a frightening respond. And the last question here is, why is this mobilization so significant? The answer from my side is pretty close and pretty clear. When something is significant, it means that it's something important, right? It's something which makes sense. Why it makes sense here in this situation? Because as more troops we have, as better chances we have to win. And the government thinks the same. Nowadays, we have a limited amount of troops placed in Ukrainian territories. Now, some of these territories are not Ukrainians. They're not controlled by Ukrainians, not Ukrainian. And people say that We need more troops to control more land. I mean, physically control more land. And yeah, maybe it is true, but nobody knows yet. People need to protect their motherland, and we're helping DNR and LNR republics. And we do it pretty successfully right now. So significant. Why is it significant? Because the people around the world can be scared, right? Can be frightened as well. Because when you see a lot of troops, you cannot resist this amount of power. If you cannot resist, so you're defeating. You're losing your control. So the war gonna end. If we have big power, the document's gonna be signed and the peace will come. I hope we will see it as soon as possible, but nobody can guarantee it. So that's why it's kind of scary, and it's kind of significant for us to work effectively. Let's see next. So those statements, right, were my own. But let's see what they say here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but what they say here is that the first question, what does partial mobilization mean? So they say that mobilization is a term used when certain groups are called up to serve in Russia's armed forces. It's different from a general mobilization, which is when people from general population are drafted. Okay, so it means that the person like me who've never been to army can be drafted. As an example, they use the historical statement Tsar. So Tsar is like a president, right, in the Russian Empire. Tsar Nicholas II ordered a general mobilization of the Russian army July 30th, 1914, right? 14th, yeah. So 2 days later, Germany declared war on Russia. As you see, I think it was the First World War, right, if I'm not mistaken. So the Russian army, July 30th, 1914, so they ordered a general mobilization. So every single man must go to army and protect their motherland. So Tsar Nicholas II. And then, of course, this law or rule was modified drastically. As you know, right now we have just the partial mobilization. It's not full mobilization, not the general mobilization. And these acts are different. So retired Marine. Okay, so just many words here about some examples about the Ukraine as well. But what they say that reservists who have already served in the Russian military and those with special military skills and combat experience, they must go first, right? That's why that's what the partial means. So if you are have served in the Russian military, and if you do have special military skills or combat experience, you go. There's no evidence or there's no option to stay. You need to go. It's the first question answered, right? The next question, how many reservists does Russia have? What they say here is that the Russian reserve has more than 2 million former conscripts and contract soldiers, but few are actively trained or prepared for war. Only a few. According to the Center of Strategic and International Studies, just 10% receive training after their initial service. I don't think so that we have only 2 million former conscripts and contract soldiers. Maybe we do. But again, not all of them are kind of working right now. Not all of them. And actually, we have almost 30 million men who had finished their army force, not contract, but it was just the preparation in the army, right? They faced it. They were trained and they were prepared somehow. I'm not saying that they were prepared nicely for the war, but they served nicely there, and now they have a chance to protect their motherland somehow. For example, the troops in America, they have just the amount of soldiers, right? But the normal people, citizens, they have no preparation at all. So in America, they have only the contract army. But we have an obligation. Every man, when you are 18 years old, you must go to army and you must serve your land. So that's the point. And we have more people. So I say it's about 30 million people must go and serve the land. And they have a chance to protect their land as well. Of course, nobody wants to do that, of course. People are men chickening out right now. You know what does it mean, chickening out? You know the word chicken? Bark, 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 right? So, and when you're chickening out, it means that you are scared too much. You're running away from that obligation. So people do buy army tickets. They try to avoid this kind of process, right? When you must go to army, and people are chickening out right now. They're running away from Russia to somewhere else, to Kazakhstan, to the places like America, Europe, what place you want, right? Indonesia, Bali. It depends on your budgets you have, right? On the tickets, because tickets are very pricey right now. So, and I like the quote here. We have the quote. There is no question that Russia has that many reservists to call up. Somebody like Jonah says. But reservists are invariably not as well trained as regulars. And Russian regulars have performed horribly on the battlefield. So the reservists will presumably be much worse. I agree, but I disagree that we perform badly on land because, seriously, check the map, all right? So Ukrainians already lost some of their lands, right? It means that we are not horribly acting there, okay? We're acting maybe not superbly nice, right? But not horribly. All right, so battlefield shows, the situation shows how we're doing it. And in my opinion, we're doing it not that bad. Okay, it's enough comments related to the question, how many reservists does Russia have? Because they announcing here that 2 million, right? 2 million people we have, former conscripts. So it's like official contract army. So how are Russian citizens responding? Oh, my God. And I see the big picture with the police and the man who is like screaming like, ah, right, on the pic. And we have the note here, police officers detain a man following calls to protest against partial mobilization announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Yes, we do have some people who are protesting right now. Yeah, I forgot to say that. We do have people here in Russia who are protesting, but I think it's stupid. It's stupid to protest anywhere you can imagine, because all protests don't work, right? It doesn't work, guys. Just listen. I've never seen any protest which worked without the brutal force. You can say, okay, the last protest, which I remember, was in Ukraine, when they changed their government. But it was the brutally forced use there. It was not the peaceful protest. So there is none protests which can change the situation. And I think it's so stupid to protest. Yeah, you can say, you can announce, you can proclaim your will, but it doesn't make any sense. And maybe you're going to be arrested and you'll have the document which obligate you to go to the Russian department, the army department, and maybe you'll go to the war very soon. It doesn't work nicely. So anti-war protests are good, but when you try to announce the protest against the partial mobilization, man, you're gonna be mobilized right away. Don't do this. And what they say here in this area, they say that there are a lot of people who are not agreeing with this, right? They are trying to fight against the system. And it means that it's not really doing anything, all right? And the last question is why this mobilization is so significant. And I want to read this because it's quite interesting. They have some historical points here. This is Russia's first military mobilization since World War II or World War II, and is highly significant, says Jonas, for several reasons. Right? For Russia to even ask for help is a major embarrassment and admission of failure, he says. But what concerns Jonas most is Putin's nearly outright threat of nuclear war. And again, I'm thinking that it is a little bit fake, right? Because he's never said anything about nuclear weapons, right? If somebody would attack us, yes, we would just answer, right? We would have our own feedback with nuclear war, but we would not use the nuclear weapon first. Jonas is an expert in nuclear non-proliferation. Okay, non-proliferation, that's a word. So it's the combination of the word prevention, as I see, right? Non-proliferation. Interesting. So let's check what this word means. Never heard of it. The prevention of an increase of spread of something, especially the number of countries possessing nuclear weapons. Okay. So when you try to prevent, right, the amounts of spread of nuclear weapons, right, this is called non-proliferation, right? So, for example, it can be a nuclear weapon or chemical weapon. When you are trying to use nuclear non-proliferation, it means that nobody's promoting nuclear power after you, right? So it's kind of a good thing. And I'm completely agree. So we don't need to use nuclear weapons. It's very deadly. And nuclear proliferation, who has served as General Counsel for the National Nuclear Security Administration at the U.S. Department of Energy. Yes, but you know what? Can you call me the country which never used their nuclear weapon? I can say that Russians, they had never used nuclear weapons. Never. But the U.S. used it twice in Japan. And how the person can say something like this, how the country who used it twice can say something like this to the country which never used it before, that's a question. And they say here that, it's kind of important, right? And what they kind of comment here, they say, it is absolutely outrageous that Putin has now twice threatened the use of nuclear weapons. Again, he never done it. Remember that nuclear weapons have not been used in anger war since 1945. To use them now would end the nearby 80 years of non-use of nuclear weapons. It doesn't matter whether he uses only a tactical nuclear weapon, because such use would literally change the security posture of the entire world. Tactically, we can use it, and it would be a big announcement to the world that we're serious. We're serious, that nobody wants to fight. we need to stop this, okay? You cannot stop the war when people say no, right? So you announce, we want do this. Please stop. And they say no. If they say no, you need a bigger argument. With a bigger argument, you can change the situation, but you cannot change the situation when you have not enough arguments. So the war gonna go further if we're not using more powerful arguments. So who wins? Who can win the war? Who might win the war? The person who is more powerful. Because if you have less power, you're losing, and you must sign the papers somehow. And now we have only two choices, and actually only one. In the finale, you will see it. We have the choice to lose Crimea, to lose all the lands we had before. And another choice is to keep the land and protect the land. And I know for sure what the government will do with that. So they will say, we're going to stay, we're going to have our territories, and we're going to protect our territories no matter what. But I say again, Vladimir Putin never announced it. So we would use, it's only my guesses, we would use our nuclear weapon forces only if somebody else would use it against us. And that's what the Vladimir Putin said thrice or many, many times in our stuff. So this is all for the topics about Russia's partial military mobilization. And we discussed with you 4 questions. What does partial mobilization mean? I gave my own thoughts on it. How many reservists does Russia have? How are Russian citizens responding? Why is this mobilization so significant? So we discussed it. We read some stories from Science, howstuffworks.com. And yes, I'm not agreeing. I do not agree with the states or with the statements they're proclaiming here. Okay. How Stuff Works. Very good websites, but I'm not agree with them now. So that's all for today, guys. If you do have any comments about the topic, if you want to learn something, if you want to know some parts or some topics, just let me know on Telegram. I have a Telegram page, www.instagram.com, Bondarison. And next, I have a website, www.danilabondarenko.ru, where you can apply for a tryout lesson. And very soon, I will open the more services for you guys. I'm creating the platform right now where you can study English offline. I mean, without me, but with my knowledge, with my videos, with my exercises, which I'm going to prepare for you guys. It's going to be available soon. I guess in the end of February, I will announce and I will offer something to you guys. My first course is going to be finished. But now, that's all for today. Peace and have an amazing time with English. Try to avoid the fear. Try to avoid the problems related to the news. Do not read the news. Try to be connected with your own story, with your own mind. Be a practitioner. Be a practitioner of yoga or meditate more, right? It's important nowadays. We need to control our mind, our thoughts, and that's what can help us. Thank you. It's all for tonight. And it was Daniel here with you guys. Have an amazing time. See you very soon. Bye-bye.